What's up, guys? I'm Todd, and welcome back to Mysterious Galaxies, a channel where I review and discuss science fiction, fantasy, and horror novels and short stories. In today's video, we're going to go over my first book haul. Woo woo! Over the past couple of weeks, I got into some really awesome physical and digital books. I also recently bought a Kobo Clara Black and White, which I have right here. This is my first e-reader, and so far I'm really loving it. If I wasn't reading a physical book, I was typically reading ebooks on my iPhone. Maybe it's because I'm getting older or because I stare at a monitor all day for work, but I noticed that my eyes were straining more and more. And I'm hoping that the e-reader is going to kind of reduce that eye strain. And, so far it seems to be working out. I find myself reading more without needing to take as many breaks, and my left eye no longer hurts. So I guess that's a good thing. Once I've had more time with the Kobo Black and White, I'll probably do a full review if that's something you guys are interested in. But let's just jump into some digital books that I bought for it. Now, the first book I got was based on some feedback from my wife and some coworkers who are also into science fiction. It is Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary. Now, technically, I got the audiobook, but, it's digital, so I'm counting it. I've had it on my to be read pile for a long time now, but I've been putting it off. And I know how much other people loved it, but The Martian didn't really hit me the same way it did others. I kind of enjoyed the premise and how things unfolded, but at the same time, the character work was just a little bit boring. And I'm someone who's character first and plot, slightly second. So when I read that Project Hail Mary was similar, I pushed it a little bit further down my pile. But regardless, I'm going to give it a chance and see if maybe the book resonates with me a bit more than The Martian. And, if nothing else, maybe it'll give me something to talk about on Slack with my coworkers. Now, this second book, well, first I should say, when it comes to movies, I really like going into them blind. I don't watch trailers, I don't read about the movie, and I avoid spoilers as best I can. And for the most part, it's been really fun experience. But I am done trying that with books. If you've seen my other reviews, I tried twice this year with Oceans Go Dory and The Night Ends with Fire, and it backfired hard. So I'm really relying on word of mouth from here on out and recommendations from people who read similar books as me. And this happens to be one of them. Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft was recommended by a friend who read and enjoyed the entire 4-book series. I mentioned before that I've been pretty ignorant to modern fantasy and science fiction, so I was surprised to see how popular the series was and how it just kind of skirted by me without notice. For those like me who aren't in the know, the Books of Babel series centers around Senlin, a school teacher who embarks on a journey to find his missing wife after they are separated during their honeymoon in the vast, mysterious Tower of Babel. I think what's most interesting is the tower itself is this, it's this colossal, enigmatic structure filled with different sectors, with each with its own distinct society, rules, and dangers. Supposedly, as Senlin ascends the tower, he encounters a variety of characters and challenges, and his search gradually transforms into a much larger epic quest. I've also been told that this is steampunk, and I've never read anything steampunk, so I'm pretty excited to give that a try. And if you happen to have any recommendations for steampunk, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll get around to them eventually. Now, next up, we have Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't know this book even existed. I must have watched the movie at least 5 or 6 times with my brother in the early 2000s, and then a few times years later with my wife. It's her favorite movie. And not one time did I notice in the credits that it was based on a book series. I've been told that the book is pretty different from the movies, which is a good thing in my eyes. If I wanted to go back and watch the movie again, I would. So I think I'll end up reading this and then watching the movie and making a review with some comparisons between the two. The story follows Sophie Hatter, a young woman who is cursed by a wicked witch and transformed into an old woman. In her quest to break the spell, Sophie ends up at Hal's mysterious moving castle. Now, Hal is a vain, eccentric wizard with reputation for stealing young girls' hearts, so you can kind of see where the conflict might be. As she interacts with the castle's quirky inhabitants, Sophie becomes entangled in magical adventures and gradually uncovers the secrets behind Hal, the curse, and the strange magic that surrounds them all. Definitely be on the lookout for my review of Hal's Moving Castle. If it's as enjoyable as the movie, I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with this one. Now, this next book I'm really excited by. It's apparently a really popular series in the lit RPG world. It's Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinneman. I actually picked up the first two books because they sounded like a lot of fun, and I heard that they're light reads, which is definitely something I'm kind of looking for at the moment. Um, I didn't even know what lit RPG was prior to finding out about this book. But it's basically an RPG in book form. You have loot, you have character level progression, and even hit points. I'm interested to see if it keeps my attention because most of what makes RPGs fun is, well, playing them. I don't know if reading about an RPG is going to have the same results, but it's worth a shot, and the ebook versions are really cheap at the moment. I think I paid $4 for the first one and $5 for the second. Dungeon Crawler Carl follows Carl, an ordinary man who is thrust into a brutal video game-like dungeon crawl after Earth is destroyed in a cataclysmic event. Alongside his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut, which is an amazing name, Carl must navigate deadly traps, fight monstrous creatures, and compete against other survivors, all while being broadcast to a sadistic intergalactic audience. Out of everything I've, read for this this pile of books that I got, this one sounds the most fun. And I don't know how many other people played them when they came out, but I was a big fan of the Dot Hack franchise on PS2, and it sounds really familiar to that series, with people getting sucked into a video game and slowly uncovering the mysteries behind the incident while, trying to survive and level up. And as a side note, the author is actually from the same town as my wife, so that's really cool. Although my physical book collection definitely makes up the brunt of my library, I think I'm going to start slowly making my way over to digital. I love the smell and feel of a physical book, but I like the idea of being able to take my collection of books on the go. And we move around quite a bit every 2 years, and dragging along several hundred books across the country is pretty difficult. Not to mention they get beat up along the way. So I think I'm going to take a break from buying physical. But with that being said, I still got a few for my birthday. The first physical book I got is The Bright Sword by Lev Grossman. The Magicians is the only book I've read by Grossman, and I finished it either my senior year of high school or maybe it was freshman year of college. I don't remember, but I do remember really enjoying it. And I meant to continue with the series as they came out, but I forgot and I haven't gone back since. So The Bright Sword is going to be my first Grossman read since then, and I'm really pumped for it. I've been in love with King Arthur lore since I was a kid, and my grandma read what was it called? It was by Howard Pyle. The Story of King Arthur and His Knights. If you haven't read that or his rendition of Robin Hood, you should check it out. I actually have Robin Hood on the shelf over there. I can't remember where my King Arthur is. But anyway. The Bright Sword takes a young knight named Callum, and drops him off in Camelot. King Arthur has died and the Round Table is in disarray, with the legendary knights such as Lancelot and Gawain. They're gone, and the only people that remain are an eccentric group. As Britain faces chaos with the return of the ancient gods and the threat of Morgan Le Fay, this unlikely band must reclaim the lost Excalibur and restore Camelot. It sounds like a fun read, and it's different from what I've been reading lately, so at the very least, that's a plus. Now, the second book I purchased is Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor. She's an author that is pretty new to me. I've only read one of her short stories. It was in a collection a long time ago by John Joseph Adams, I think. And I really liked it. And I found this book at a local used bookstore, so I picked it up. One of the cool things that I really like about this premise is I'm not familiar with science fiction or fantasy set in Africa. And that's where this takes place. Lagoon is a first contact novel in which aliens land in the waters outside of Lagos, Nigeria. And when word hits the internet, chaos ensues. Soon, the military, religious leaders, thieves, and everyone else begins pushing their own agendas and narratives. Meanwhile, the Earth's political superpowers are considering a preemptive nuclear launch to eradicate the intruders. So you can kind of see where the story is going to go. And what also drew me to it is it's a fairly short novel. It's not 1,000 pages. So I'm really interested in just kind of a quick read at this point. But, because it is a quick read, I might prioritize it and I'll get a review up for you. I haven't actually seen too many reviews of this on BookTube. So hopefully I'll be one of the ones that get to shine a light on it. The last physical book we have here is Saturn Run by John Stanford and Katine. I had to look up the latter, and according to his website, that's how you pronounce it. So I'm hoping I'm saying that right. According to Reddit, it's pronounced completely different, but I'm going to go with the author here. It's also pretty interesting because he doesn't appear to be a fiction writer. He published a bunch of books on photography, though, so I'm not entirely sure how much he contributed to this novel and in what capacity. But I have to imagine he played a role in a lot of the technical components. And while I'm not familiar with Stanford, he's written a lot of best-selling espionage thrillers. I'm expecting a lot of that from this book. And this also appears to be his first science fiction novel, so we'll see how that goes. As far as the plot goes, it sounds really promising. In the year 2066, a Caltech intern detects an anomaly near Saturn. It's a decelerating object indicating an advanced spaceship. Governments quickly realize that the technology behind the ship is at least a century ahead, and this sparks an international race to capture and exploit it for a significant global advantage. As the Chinese also enter the fray, a high stakes adventure unfolds, filled with courage, betrayal, resourcefulness, and unexpected discoveries. A hastily assembled crew must face challenges from both Earth and beyond, leading to an unpredictable and thrilling journey filled with suspense and technological marvels. So be on the lookout for my review of Saturn Run. Now, for a channel update. Part of the reason I'm moving over to an e-reader is that I'm going to be undergoing a series of surgeries over the next 3 years, starting with my femur. And I don't think I'm going to want to haul around a bunch of books each time I go to the hospital. So the Kobo is going to come in clutch. I've actually downloaded a few other audiobooks too, just in case I can't read. And what does this mean for the channel? Well, nothing really, I guess. I'm going to release videos when I can until I get back to a normal cadence. I'll likely end up reading a bunch of books in between each video, so I'll have a backlog of reviews to get through once I comfortably can sit in my computer chair again instead of being stuck in bed. As mentioned, I'm really looking for something light and humorous, so I think I'll start with the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. It sounds like, something that will offer a pick-me-up post-surgery, and I'm interested to see where the story takes me. Outside of that, I don't know. Maybe I'll go back to reading some Dungeons and Dragons. It's always good for a light read. But that's it for today, guys. If you don't hear from me for a little while, happy reading. And until next time, this is Todd.